Hi, welcome to ArkIntel. What if I told you that the greatest threat to our future isn't a hurricane, wildfire, or rising sea levels, but a spreadsheet? Hidden in the policies shaping our world is a formula, cold, calculated, and quiet, that puts a price tag on every human life and every generation yet to come. It doesn't make headlines, but it's justified decades of inaction and millions of preventable deaths. This isn't just about numbers, it's about power, how governments and corporations prioritize profits over survival. As storms destroy towns and oceans claim coastlines, one question remains: who decided the future was worth so little? The truth is, the future isn't being stolen, it's being sold. Last year, the US was battered by two unprecedented hurricanes, Helen and Milton. Helen devastated North Carolina, while Milton wreaked havoc in Florida. Entire neighborhoods vanished, hundreds of lives were lost, and recovery teams struggled to keep up. This year, we've already witnessed a similar disaster with the California fires. These aren't isolated events, they are part of a disturbing trend. With every passing year, climate disasters are becoming more ferocious. Rising sea levels, record-breaking wildfires, and prolonged droughts are all signs that the clock is running out. But as these catastrophes intensify, our leaders remain strangely silent. Oil and gas production continues to break records, and a recent study revealed something shocking. 96% of climate policies fail to meaningfully reduce emissions. What's stopping us from taking action? The answer lies in a system so embedded in our policies that we rarely notice it. A system that quietly declared our future isn't worth the cost of saving. To understand this system, we need to look back at another crisis: asbestos. While celebrated for its fireproofing abilities, asbestos was used in everything from homes to schools. But by the 1930s, manufacturers already knew its horrifying secret. It caused fatal diseases like lung cancer and mesothelioma. Rather than stop its use, the asbestos industry buried the evidence. Research was suppressed, lawsuits were settled quietly, and the public remained in the dark for decades. By the time the truth surfaced in the 1970s, millions had already been exposed. When regulators finally confronted the crisis, they faced a chilling question: should asbestos be banned outright, or should the decision be delayed because of the costs? Under the Reagan administration, decisions like these began relying heavily on cost-benefit analysis. This approach weighed the immediate costs of regulation against the long-term benefits, including human lives. But here's where it becomes horrifying. Using a formula called discounting, Reagan's team reduced the value of a human life. They argued that because asbestos-related illnesses take decades to appear, saving a future life was worth only $22,000, far less than $1 million value assigned to a life saved immediately. This mathematical trick turned logic on its head, leading regulators to delay a full ban on asbestos. And as they waited, countless preventable deaths occurred. Now, the same formula is being applied to climate change. At the heart of it is the discount rate, a number that determines how much value we assign to future benefits. Here's how it works. With a discount rate of 3%, a life saved 20 years from now is considered significantly less valuable than one saved today. At a 5% rate, the value of $100 benefiting a century from now shrinks to just 76 cents. The discount rate is not an unchangeable law, it's a choice. Policymakers set it, often influenced by short-term goals rather than long-term needs. This arbitrary decision has enormous consequences, allowing governments to justify inaction today while downplaying future harms. These calculations aren't just academic, they shape real policies. Agencies like the EPA use discount rates of 3 to 7% to evaluate climate regulations, often concluding that the immediate action is too expensive compared to hypothetical future savings. This logic devalues millions of lives and ecosystems decades down the line, prioritizing short-term costs over long-term survival. Last year, a group of students sued the EPA, arguing that the agency was discriminating against the future generations. Their claim was simple yet devastating. The government was systematically undervaluing their lives in its climate policies. In response, the Biden administration lowered the default discount rate from 3% to 2%. It's a step forward, but it still assigns less value to future lives than those living today. The problem remains. The system itself is built on the idea that the future matters less. What these children demonstrated is that the fight for the future is not just about policies, it's about values. They brought a moral question to the forefront. Should a child born today have less right to a safe and healthy world than someone alive now? While governments falter, corporations are exploiting this flawed system to secure their profits. A striking example comes from Italy, where Rockhopper Exploration, a British oil company, sued the government for banning oil drilling near its coast. Rockhopper wasn't content with recovering its investment of 30 million euros. Instead, it used a discounting formula to claim compensation for profits it expects to make in the future, profits it hadn't even earned yet. The court sided with the company, awarding 84 million euros. This case sets a chilling precedent. Fossil fuel companies can demand payouts for imagined profits, even when the government acts to protect the environment. It's a system rigged in favor of polluters, not people. At its core, discounting isn't just a mathematical tool, it's an ideology. It assumes that the future is worth less than today, embedding this bias into every policy decision. This approach frames climate action as an investment, something that needs a financial return, rather than an urgent necessity. Worse, it erases the political debates we need to have, replacing them with numbers that appear objective but are deeply biased. And who benefits? The powerful industries and investors who profit from the status quo, while the rest of us and the planet pay the price. The future isn't some abstract concept. It's your children, your neighbors, and even you a few decades older. The solutions to the climate crisis, that is renewable energy, reforestation, sustainable practices, etc., are within reach. But they require us to abandon this dangerous logic. We can't keep treating the future as expendable or delaying action because the math doesn't look good. The truth is, the cost of doing nothing far outweighs the price of action. Right now, a hidden formula is dictating our response to the climate crisis, prioritizing profits over survival. But the power to change the system lies with us. We must reject the idea that the future is worth less than today, because if we don't act now, there won't be a future left to save. Rewriting the equation means more than just changing numbers. It means rethinking how we value life, the planet, and the generations that come after us. It means holding leaders and corporations accountable for decisions that prioritize short-term profits over long-term survival. It means demanding bold, immediate action on climate change, even if it requires challenging entrenched systems of power. It's time to rewrite the equation, and this time, let's value the future for what it truly is: everything.